Before I get into the main subject of this video, I have to introduce you guys to somebody. My girlfriend.
Hi, I'm Delphine.
So, she and I share many interests, of course, one of which is trying to figure out what inspired the creation of our favorite video games. For a while, we have talked about collaborating on an analysis video for the channel, but we couldn't find the right game for whatever reason. But that changed a few months ago. She found the ideal game for us to analyze, and in the spirit of the alchemists, it was found in the place that I least wanted to look. Now, some of you might wonder, based on the title of this video, why Yu-Gi-Oh would be something that I really wouldn't want to talk about. Do I not like Yu-Gi-Oh? Actually, I think Yu-Gi-Oh is pretty cool. I grew up playing and loving the game, collecting the cards. I just didn't want to look into it now because, well, do you want to tell them?
Because Konami sucks.
Right, because Konami sucks. And because Konami sucks, I'm not inclined to finance the way they're currently treating their classic franchises, be it Silent Hill, my favorite Metal Gear Solid, or Yu-Gi-Oh! But then, well, why don't you take it from here?
Okay, so Konami released a free digital version of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game back in January called Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Because I loved playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Growing up and I wouldn't be giving Konami any of my money, I decided to download the game. After I started playing, I noticed all these references to real-life culture and religion in the cards, references that completely flew past us as kids. I presented some of these references to Max and suggested that maybe we could do a video on this.
Right, and I was very enthusiastic about it. See, she started showing me all these creative references and reinterpretations of classic myths. These included not just the stuff that I normally talk about, like Kabbalah, Gnosticism, and the Nordic myths, but a lot of stuff from Eastern religion too. So we thought, hey, why not put a video together trying to elucidate what those influences are, and by proxy, show how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a lot more sophisticated than we remember.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to split this video into two parts. This video will be on Western myths, and the second video will be on Eastern myths. Now keep in mind there are over 10,000 Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. We are inevitably going to overlook some cards that should be in the video. Please let us know what cards those are in the comment section below.
And who knows, if this video does well, if you guys hit that like button and share this video around, we will do more future videos where we cover that missed content. I will be starting with a secret pack of cards known as the Enchanted Threads of Shade. These cards largely reference the Jewish Kabbalistic tradition. If you're a long-time viewer of this channel, you will remember me talking about how this tradition influenced anime series like Neon Genesis Evangelion, as well as video games like Final Fantasy VII and Xenogears. Jewish Kabbalah also found its way into Yu-Gi-Oh!, but much later in the game's life cycle. I will start by referencing the most recognizable symbol from the Jewish Kabbalah, the Sephirotic tree, also known as the Tree of Life. The analog to this in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the Naturia Sacred Tree, which houses what looks like the Sephirotic tree within, according to the Oracle of Zephyra card. Zephyra appears to be a mistranslation or a stylistic play on the word Sephira, which is the plural form of Sephirot or Sephiroth. There's your Final Fantasy VII reference. Before I go any further with the references, I will relay the story that these cards are trying to tell. I won't explain the full storyline because that would take too long, but I will reference the parts that are relevant to Kabbalah. If you want to read the entire story, click on link number 1 in the description box below. Though the Sephira are referred to as a tree in Kabbalah, they aren't an actual tree. Rather, they represent the form of the primordial man, that of Adam Kadmon, a name which should be familiar to fans of Persona 5. At the beginning of time, God's infinite light shone out into the darkness of space, and that light took the form of the top circle, Keter. The light from Keter then shone forth into the other 10 circles, or vessels. 7 of those vessels could not contain the holy light and thus shattered. The light and the shards of these vessels were what created the known universe. Yu-Gi-Oh! Takes this creation myth, amongst other elements of Kabbalah, and reinterprets it for its own purposes. The most obvious example of this is that they made the Sephirotic tree an actual tree, the Naturia Sacred Tree. According to the official Japanese Master Guide 5 storyline, all life rooted on that planet has its origins in the Naturia Sacred Tree. The energy radiating from the sacred tree spreads throughout the earth and is granted new life as it takes the form of any and all newborn creatures who draw breath upon the land. This makes sense. If the Sephirotic tree of Kabbalah is responsible for all life in the universe, then of course the sacred tree would be responsible for all life as we know it. Now below both the sacred tree and the Sephirotic tree is an inverted version, both which happen to share the same name, Qliphoth. In Kabbalah, the Qliphoth represent the polar opposite values of everything that is good in the Sephirotic tree, namely, evil. The representation of good and evil in the two trees carries over into Yugioh. Both the sacred and Qliphotic trees control two different types of power. The sacred tree controls the power of creation / good, and the Qliphoth controls the power of destruction / evil. Both trees have their separate rulers. One is named Sophia, and the other is named Tierra. Stepping away from Kabbalah for a moment, Sophia is a very famous name in the religious tradition known as Gnosticism, a non-canonical form of Christian thought. She was seen as the part of God that represented wisdom. She was like Adam Kadmon in that she went out into the void and created the known universe. Here, we see the sophisticated knowledge of religion possessed by the creators of Yu-Gi-Oh! They saw the similarities between both myths and creatively combined them, maintaining their core purpose, but changing certain aesthetic details to make it fit well within the trading card game. Let's return to Kabbalah. I will now run down a bunch of cards and briefly explain their influence. One of the cards is based off of one of the circles in the Sephirotic tree. The card Zephyroth represents the part of the Sephirotic tree labeled Dat, which is sometimes pronounced Dath. Another card is Zephra Metaltron. Metaltron references the angel Metatron, from not just Kabbalah, but the wider Jewish religious tradition. There's your Silent Hill reference. Then, there are the cards labeled as El Shaddai, which is obviously a play on El Shaddai, one of the many names for God in Judaism. There are multiple El Shaddai cards, but for the purposes of this video, we're just going to focus on 3. El Shaddai Winda, El Shaddai Construct, and El Shaddai Anoyatilis. Once again, we see either a mistranslation or a stylistic change with the names of these cards. If we look at the most accurate translation for these cards from the original Japanese, certain clues begin to manifest. The Japanese name for El Shaddai Winda is actually El Shaddai Midrash. Midrash is a Judaic term for an accessory medium, such as writing or oration, with which a rabbi discusses a doctrinal text. The Japanese name for El Shaddai Construct is El Shaddai Nephilim. Nephilim is a bit of an obscure term in Judaism. Some people interpret the name to mean giant. Others interpret the Nephilim as the hybrid sons of fallen angels. The El Shaddai Construct card seems to reflect both of these traits. Notice the size of the construct compared to the dragon in the top right corner. Also notice the streams of light behind it, taking the form of what appear to be wings. As for El Shaddai Anoyatilis, its Japanese name is El Shaddai Anama Lilith. In some Judaic literature, Eve was not the first woman. Rather, it was Lilith. She, like Adam, was created from Earth's soil. Unlike the subsequent Eve, who was born from Adam's rib, Lilith would not acquiesce to serving Adam as his wife. The consequence of this was banishment from the Garden of Eden. Following this banishment, she became the primordial female demon, spawning several succubi and incubi. Finally, before we move on to the next part of this video, I gotta point out this one thing that may or may not have been intentional. So at the beginning of this video, I mentioned a video game called Xenogears, and how it referenced several Jewish concepts. I get the feeling that one or more of the creators of the Yu-Gi-Oh cards were Xenogears fans. I cite 2 cards from the Life Force Control System pack as evidence. One is the Apocryphort Skybase, and the other is the Qliphoth Monolith. The Skybase reminds me of the city in the sky in Xenogears known as Shavat. Shavat, by the way, is the name of one of the months in the Hebrew calendar. The monolith reminds me of the Zohar monolith from both Xenogears and Xenosaga. This could all be a coincidence. After all, these are the only two cards that I think share the clearest resemblance to those games. Then again, some of the monsters in the Life Force Control System pack resemble some of the gears from Xenogears, so maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit, I don't know. Am I crazy? Is there something there? Let me know in the comment section below. In a moment, we will be moving on from Jewish mythology into Nordic mythology, but before I do, I want to acknowledge that my girlfriend basically did all the work for this chapter. She actually recorded the narration for this part, but there were unfortunate technical issues where her voice kept cutting out as she spoke. We would have re-recorded, but I've been away from her place the last couple of days, so that became impossible. So, I will be narrating her work. There are references to Norse mythology in 3 different card packs we found: Celestial Dragon and Bear, Magnificence of Angels, and Astral Trinity of Gods. For this video, we will only focus on the latter 2 packs because Celestial Dragon and Bear only has one reference that we are aware of, with the card Fafnir. Unlike the aforementioned Life Force Control System and Enchanted Threads of Shade packs, these 2 packs do not creatively reinterpret pre-existing myths. They pretty much name all of the primary concepts by their exact name. We will start with the Astral Trinity of Gods, because this pack features the most recognizable names and concepts from the Nordic tradition. Let's start with one of the ultra-rare cards. Odin is one of the highest and most important gods in Norse mythology. I would like to bring your attention to 3 things. Notice Odin's missing left eye, the weapon in his right hand, and the armor surrounding his wrist. First, the missing eye is a reference to Odin giving up his left eye to a shadowy being named Mimir. He did this because he wanted to obtain infinite knowledge and prophetic capabilities. The weapon in his right hand is known as Gungnir, a magical spear that always hits its target when thrown and then returns to its owner. The armor on Odin's left wrist is called Draupnir, which is a reference to a gold ring gifted to Odin by dwarves. The ring had the ability to multiply itself. Over the course of 9 days, 8 duplicates would spawn from the ring. Notice how the abilities of these relics are adapted into the actual Yu-Gi-Oh game. Gungnir is a trap card, which can destroy an opponent's monster. Draupnir, if destroyed by an opponent's card effect, allows you to add another Nordic relic card from your deck to your hand. So say you had a second or third Draupnir card, right? You lose one, just to spawn another one, like the actual Draupnir, right? Oh, and by the way, there's also the trap card called Odin's Eye, which allows you to look at your opponent's hidden cards at the cost of negating a card you control. An interesting take on Odin's exchange of an eye for wisdom. Next, we will discuss Loki and his offspring. Loki is a trickster god, known for frequently playing pranks on the other gods, a quality that is inferred by his physiology and choice of wardrobe. Note the icy background in Loki's picture. This might be a reference to the land of Niflheim, the icy land of the dead that his daughter Hel rules over, who also sometimes is referred to as Hela. Loki had other children aside from Hel, including Fenrir the Wolf and Jormungandr the World Serpent. There are a couple of extra details regarding these cards that I will bring your attention to in a moment, but first, I need to introduce one of the most famous concepts in Norse mythology, that of Ragnarok. For all intents and purposes, Ragnarok is the apocalypse, the end of the world. At the end of time, a great battle will take place between all the gods and great beasts which will unwind all the tapestries of existence. Multiple things are foretold to happen in this battle. Thor, son of Odin, will wield his mighty hammer Mjolnir in a battle against Jormungandr. Up until Ragnarok, Fenrir was shackled by the gods, for they feared his power, and rightfully so. During Ragnarok, Fenrir would break free of his chains and devour Odin. But Odin would not go down without a fight. In the time leading up to Ragnarok, Odin would prepare an army of Einherjar. Einherjar were veteran spirit warriors that would dwell in the Hall of the Fallen until the day of Ragnarok arrived. That hall was known as Valhalla. But the Einherjar would first need to be chosen and then guided to Valhalla upon their death. This role was delegated to Odin's handmaidens, known as the Valkyrie. It is with the Valkyrie that we find probably Yu-Gi-Oh's richest representation of Norse mythology. Let's start with the card titled Valkyrie Sigrun. Sigrun was a woman who fell in love with a warrior named Helgi Hundingsbane. Unfortunately, Sigrun's father promised her to another king's son. As a declaration of his true love for Sigrun, he battled all who existed in that other king's domain. Though he died in battle, at the hands of Sigrun's brother no less, Helgi is sent honorably to Valhalla, and Sigrun became Odin's Valkyrie. Valkyrie Brunhilde might be more recognizable to some of you due to her appearance in Wagner's Ring Cycle as the central female protagonist. If you don't know what my girlfriend's telling me it's Wagner. Sorry. If you don't know what Wagner's Ring Cycle is, you might recognize the music from it. It is playing in the background right now. This particular song is called Ride of the Valkyries, a song that some of you might recognize from the movie Apocalypse Now, and as an actual card in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. Finally, there are several other Valkyrie that have an interesting yet befuddling feature. The names of these Valkyries are numbers in German. If you add the number value of their names to the number of levels they have, the number comes out to 7. For instance, Valkyrie Fünft. Fünft equals 5. 5 plus the card's level 2 equals 7. Or how about Valkyrie Zweite? Zweite equals 2. 2 plus 5 equals 7. It's interesting but befuddling because neither I nor Delphine were able to surmise any importance behind the number 7, at least in regards to Norse mythology. If any of you can help explain the purpose behind the number 7 in regards to these cards, that would be much appreciated. Good job, hun.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just reminding you, like I said at the beginning, she did all of the research for the second part of this video, and some of the research for the first part as well. In effect, this video wouldn't have been possible without Delphine. If you like the work she did, make sure to do 2 things. 1, hit the like button. 2, let us know in the comment section whether or not you would like to see a follow-up to this video. We did say that Yu-Gi-Oh! References a lot of Eastern religious concepts, and we'd like to present those to you as well. But whether or not we do, comes down to you. So yeah, actually, you want to do it?
Sure. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Can I say the other thing too?
Yeah, if you want.
Until next time, make sure to stay safe and stay yellow.
Oh yeah.